Hello, World History, National University Academy students. Wanted to touch base with you about lectures 1 through 4, do a recap of those lectures of the work we've done in class, go over units 1 through 4 to prepare you for the midterm, and to do that we need to cover the French Revolution, the American Revolution, the ideas behind both of those, the Reign of Terror in France, Napoleon's rise to power, his 100 Days. We're also going to go back in time a bit and discuss the Protestant Reformation and or the Protestant Revolution and the Catholic Reformation, and talk about the origins of democratic thought, the ground on which democratic ideas and ideas of democratic government actually come from, both in the Enlightenment philosophers and Enlightened despots. So let's get right into those topics now. And I'm going to start off with Enlightenment philosophers and talk about the Bill of Rights and how the Bill of Rights was influenced by pretty much all of the Enlightenment philosophers had, because they were so so frequently read by the founding fathers and by people at the time, scholars of the time, men like Voltaire, John Locke, Rousseau, Montesquieu. They were the works of David Hume, the works of Thomas Hobbes. They were all read quite frequently by our founding fathers at length, and they included those ideas. And of course, you recall that John Locke's term, his verbiage makes it into our Declaration of Independence. Life, liberty, and property becomes the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. And of course, so you have John Locke, Voltaire, and Rousseau that they're going to center in on for this quiz. Which goal was not stated in the slogan for the revolution? Of course, we remember that it's liberty, equality, and brotherhood, liberté, égalité, fraternité, and justice is not among those. Isaac Newton, around this time, is he's going to write his works on physics, and those works are going to be important to setting off a lot of the groundwork in science, and his what did he call it? Throwing pebbles in the ocean of truth. His work on the law of universal gravitation is going to be really earth-shaking. Not to use too many puns there, but he's going to his law of universal gravitation is really the essence of his work and what makes his work so important. Robespierre, we talked about the French Revolution when we were talking about Robespierre in class. We noticed that during the Reign of Terror, because he used such brutal tactics to turn people to find out who might be against the revolution, it became sort of this the monster started to eat itself, and that the slightest bit of rumor that might make it into the inner circle there, that one of their own might be among the traitors, they would turn against that person and immediately send them to the guillotine. So Robespierre, the man behind the Reign of Terror, he himself he is forced from power by his fellow revolutionaries and sent to the guillotine. In the first half of the 1800s, most of the political liberals came from the middle class, the merchant class, and this was because the merchant middle class was a rising class. Before, you had the aristocracy, the rich, the ultra rich, the clergy. We talked about the first estate, the second estate. So you had the nobility and the clergy, and then the poor. And this is in France. And of course, as Europe is starting to create markets for the merchant class, this is where these liberal ideas are going to come together, where you can have these democratic arrangements of social contract that actually work, where you have not just ultra rich and poor, but a middle class where people can do for themselves without the wrath of the king coming down on them and taking their wealth from them. What did Andreas Vesalius and Voltaire both do? They challenged pre-existing ideas. In the 1700s, which of the following showed an influence in Enlightenment ideas? You'll see questions like this on the exam. Now, in the 1700s, there was an increase in women reading at this time, reading the novel. Women allowed children to have a smallpox vaccination, and men attending the salon or areas where debate could happen and people could discuss politics. These were all things that were happening more frequently in the 1700s that before that time were not done by the common folk. Which of the following was the leader of the Red Shirts? Now, you'll remember that Giuseppe Garibaldi was the leader of the Red Shirts in the end as part of the Italian nationalist movements of the time. He's going to cede his power, remember, in a surprising willingness to give up his power after winning it because he feels the king's a better servant to the people. In which of the following ways did the Baroque style and neoclassical style differ? Now, you'll remember that Baroque style is very ornate, it's very fancy, and neoclassical style has more simple lines. So Baroque style was grand and ornate, very flowery in a way, and neoclassical style was very simple and elegant. The ruler of the new unified German Empire was given the term Kaiser, and Kaiser comes from the root Tsar, and you'll see those, and of course Caesar. You'll see the kind of similar spellings in there. Caesar, Tsar, and Kaiser all come from that same etymological root, that same Germanic root coming through those languages. Of all the following, let's see here. Remember the different genres. We're coming out of there's this Romantic period that's sweeping through where people are reading Gothic novels, and Victor Hugo's going to come along, and he's going to continue a lot of this writing in some ways. But Dickens, Flaubert, and Balzac, they're all going to start writing in a realist form. So they were realists, Dickens, Flaubert, and Balzac. Which of the following is largely identified with the aristocratic movement known as Romanticism? Now they have chamber music, daguerreotype, scientific novel, or the Gothic novel. And the Gothic novel is, of course, more closely related to Romanticism. Now, the unifications of Italy and Germany were similar in that both used military force to unify various territories. So that's going to be the similarities between those two nations as they gain power. They're both going to use their militaries to build up their strength and unify the regions. The artistic styles that depicted the oppressive working conditions in Latin America under Spanish control. Again, that was realism, not impressionism or romanticism, because the realists were trying to capture what was actually happening in Latin America at the time under Spanish control. Let's see here. Now going back to Roman law and to kind of study that and understand how that's connected to how Roman and Greek decisions on how to govern made their way into the United States governmental system and that of France and England. You have to take a look at the poor citizens or poorer citizens being able to participate in government. Pericles, he makes a decision to increase the number of paid public officials and to pay jurors to participate in the democracy in Greece, and this is going to allow poorer citizens to participate in government. This is pretty big because this is actually getting closer to a more actual definition of what democracy is. Demo being of the people and ocracy being of the government. Dem